Hi, good day, everyone. So, my name is JD, and I will be your teacher for the environmental science class. So, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me at jonathandavid_delacruz at tup.edu.ph. Any questions pertaining or relating to environmental science. I actually called this class Usapang Kalikasan because definitely pag-uusapan natin ang kalikasan. Gayon din ang epekto nito sa iba't ibang fields of knowledge. No? But of course, ang Usapang Kalikasan is about environmental science. So the course code is GEE 11A. Environmental Science is offered to all students, no, in Technological University of the Philippines. This is offered under the Basic Arts and Sciences Department on Science section, Math and Science section. So, this term, apat po kami na faculty from TUP Taguig na nag-offer, na nagtuturo ng environmental science, namely Professor Albert Desal, Professor Maricel Ochoa, and Professor John Paul Arbui. So, we are four environmental science teachers for this term. So course description of the GE11A. This is a 3-unit course for engineering, technology, BTVTE programs that is meant to offer prior knowledge of science to study a range of environmental issues from technical scientific perspectives, considering the other dimensions such as social, cultural, economic, and political aspects. The program primarily seeks to provide scientific knowledge and understanding, enabling the candidate to review the environmental issues more objectively. So hopefully, no, this course will help you realize that environmental science is not only a science subject, but it's a transdisciplinary subject. Ano ibig sabihin ng transdisciplinary subject? It also covers other subjects. It encompasses other subjects that are not science, like social issues, economic issues, political issues, and even cultural issues. Pag-uusapan natin yan dito sa ating klase. Example will be the issue on the development of Kaliwa Dam. No, it's an issue of environment, but also it's an issue of economic and political aspect. So we'll see, no, on viewing these issues objectively using environmental scientific lenses. Okay, course objectives. At the end of the course, the student should be able to acquire and apply scientific knowledge about the environmental issues, so as understanding underlying concepts, develop a deeper understanding of environmental issues by relating scientific knowledge to other dimensions, acquire necessary problem-solving skills that would enable them to examine and propose alternatives to variety of environmental problems, develop a environmental values and attributes that fosters environmental responsibility, and critically evaluate their attitudes, behavior, and values, and consequently adopted a more suitable lifestyle. So, basing on the course objectives, no, this subject is not only knowledge. It's not only a cognitive subject. Hindi ito subject na kung saan kailangan mong kabisaduhin yung water cycle, kailangan mong kabisaduhin yung layers ng earth, no? Those are earth science classes. But what makes environmental science different is that, again, it's a transdisciplinary course. It encompasses other fields, and at the same time, it is an affective course. Ano ibig sabihin ng affective course? Ito ay kung saan you are expected to appreciate the environment. And when you appreciate the environment, you would have a certain level of responsibility to protect it and take good care of it. Because in this course, you will also be developing an environmental policy, no, that will aim to protect the environment. Okay? Kasi, again, this is an affective course. This is not a cognitive course only, but also an affective course. Kung nasa face-to-face classes tayo, definitely this will also be a psychomotor course because you are expected to go outside. No, but then again, since it's COVID, you are not expected to go outside. So, more on cognitive and affective ang magiging approach natin sa course na ito. Okay, so this is the outline of the course. You have basic concepts for 1, physical environment for 2, biosphere for 3, 4, human activities and environment, 5, legislations on the environment. But this will only be divided into 3 units. So ang unit 1 natin will be yung basic science concept hanggang biosphere kasi the content is quite light compared to human activities and environment and legislations and on environment. So the unit 1 will be basic science concept until biosphere. Unit 2 will be human activities and the environment. And 5 will be legislations on the environment. Bakit hiwalay din ang legislations on the environment? Because we will also be discussing legislations on the environment in global and in national level. So medyo madami-dami po yun. Iyon. Okay, let's jump right into it. Introduction to environmental science. What you can see in front of in the slide, no, is a monk hugging a tiger. So, may line na nakasulat sa baba saying that in every deliberation, we must consider our impact on the next 7 generations. What do we mean by next 7 generations? The approximation of next 7 generation is next 200 years. Okay, so sa bawat desisyon daw na gagawin natin, magtatapon ka ba ng basura, maglilinis ka, magpuputol ka ng puno, always consider the next 7 generations. Bakit consider the next 7 generations? That is 200 years. Pag when you talk about environmental science kasi, you're also talking about sustainability. And when you talk about sustainability, you make sure na kung ano man yung nararanasan mo ngayon, i-consider mo ang next 7 generation na sana maranasan nila. Example, may puno ka na naaakyat. You're going to assume and think that the next 7 generations can still climb on that tree. Okay? So environmental science is a study of interactions of humans with natural environment. The environment includes all conditions surround a living organism such as climate, air, water quality, soil landform, and presence of other living organisms. So when we talk about studying the earth itself or studying um, the earth, no, ang tawag doon ay earth science. But if you're going to study the earth, no, and at the same time the interaction of earth, the environment, and the human behavior, no, so that is called an environmental science. Environmental science and the issues that it studies are complex and interdisciplinary. Includes concepts and ideas from multiple fields of study. Decisions have impacts in all these fields of study. So if you can see doon sa image na nakuha ko po kay Cunningham noong 2005 sa kanyang Principles of Environmental Science, environmental science is at the middle of this tri-Venn diagram. No? Nandyan yung nature, technology, and culture. So there are different cultures and different environment and different technology, no, and always make sure that environmental science is at the middle, no, kasi it covers everything in it, from ecology, forestry, geology, engineering, chemistry, physics, mathematics, religion, political science, sociology, and even many more. Sa environmental science, mahalaga na maalala din natin ang 3S. Ano yung 3S? 1 is sustainability, 2 is stewardship, 3 is sound science. So these 3 will help you make responsible decisions when you study environmental science. No? So ayun po, kung titingnan ninyo, the interaction of nature, technology, and culture results to environmental science. Okay? So, make sure again in every deliberation that we do, example, yung puputulin mo ba yung puno o kaya naman sa culture ba ninyo or religion ba ninyo ang pumutol ng, ng puno, gano'n? And technology, no? In every technology na gagawin natin, 'di ba kino-consider din natin ang environmental impacts ng technology. Actually ngayon, ang trend ay green technology. Example sa architecture and engineering, of course, they always go back to green architecture kung saan less energy ang mako-consume, no? Ganun din sa mechanical engineering and automotive, no? You want less emission ng gas or less emission ng carbon dioxide or any dangerous gases, no? So, iyan. So, um, titingnan natin ngayon yung interaction ng environmental science to other fields. A community decides to use a coal for electricity as it is the cheapest source available. So that is economics. The coal must be mined under the soil. So ang pagmamine ay hindi lang basta-basta. There is also rules on doing that. And that falls on geology. The coal must be transported to the population center by the road or rail, which involves engineering. When it burns at a power plant, air pollution is released. Some of the pollution is converted to acid in the atmosphere and results to acid rain. This falls as acid rain somewhere downwind, and again, that would fall on meteorology. The acid stresses plants by affecting their nutrient absorption, ecology. Laws are passed requiring the plant to install the pollution scrubbers. All these are uh, all these are part of environmental science. Okay, so um, whether naglalakad ka lang, nakasakay ka lang sa sasakyan, um, kumakain ka, dumighay ka, that is part of environmental science. Because environmental science is generally everywhere, no? Because it is our interaction with nature. And every day, nakikipag-interact tayo with nature. Yan. So as you can see, no, dun sa example na binigay natin ngayon, it really encompasses different fields of different fields of knowledge, whether it be economics, geology, engineering, chemistry, meteorology, ecology, and even politics. Kaya nga madami tayong environmental laws na tatalakayin din sa course na to later on. So these are major environmental problems that we will be discussing. First is the resource depletion. A great deal of resources are needed to support the human population. Renewable resources can be replenished within a human lifetime. Um, Again, humans keep on seeking resources. Pero nakakalimutan ng mga tao, nakakalimutan natin that as we continue to grow in population, we have a limited resource. Limited lang po ang resources natin dito sa ating planeta. And we have to make sure that it sustains itself until the following generations. So, what can we do about that, no? So, we can use renewable resources. Yung mga non-renewable resources kasi, like coal, oil, and mineral, not necessarily non-renewable. They are renewable, but it takes a lot of years in order for these fossils to be renewed again. No? So, it is encouraged, no, to use renewable resources. And ngayon, ang trend sa engineering ay environmental engineering din. It is a trend right now kung saan energy engineering, kung saan the engineers are really looking forward kung saan sila mas makakatipid sa energy. Okay. Coal is a non-renewable resource. Over time, it will become more difficult and expensive to extract. This is the world coal reserves that we have. Ang US ang isa sa pinakamalaking, actually ang US ang pinakamalaking contributor ng carbon dioxide emission dahil sa coal kasi coal plants are the primary source of energy of the US. Maybe one of the reasons why they stepped out from the Paris Agreement, no, because of carbon dioxide emission. Okay, maybe, just maybe. At saka businessman din kasi si Trump, which makes environmental science again very political, no? Because whatever decisions that our government does, or the government of the world population or world economy does, also affects the environment. Okay, so this graph represents world coal reserves as of 2018. It is estimated that we have 250 years of resource remaining at current rates of use. So this means that, di ba 2020 ngayon, after 250 or approximately 240 years, mauubos na tong coal reserves na to. So it is encouraged, of course, to engineers and engineering technologies to look for alternative sources of energy bago pa to maubos, no? Bago pa maubos yung reserves na meron tayo. Okay. Second major pollution. The first major pollution is depletion of resources. The second one is the pollution. Pollution is the degradation or or undesired change in air, water, or soil. Walang fire. That affects the health of the living. So there are two major pollutions. We have biodegradable pollution and non-biodegradable pollution. So biodegradable, ito yung nabubulok. Non-biodegradable does not break down, or it takes hundreds of years before it breaks down, like um, even plastics ngayon, no? Okay, pollution, whether in air or water, can move and affect ecosystem far away from the source. So itong mapa na to, highest concentration of air pollution. So what did you notice? This is the world map. Okay, so if you would notice that it is still in China that has the highest concentration of air pollution. Um, we'll be discussing about that further, yung sa smogs, no? And actually, the effect of the COVID-19 to the environment, pag-uusapan natin kung ano nga bang naging problem, kung paano nga ba nagkaroon ng there's a fine line kasi sa environment. There is a fine line for humans, fine line for animals, fine line for plants. We are interacting with one another, pero on what on a certain ano lang, on a certain level. And example, there are animals that can be eaten and animals that are not supposed to be eaten because of its health implications. And ngayon, um, maaring nakaapekto ito, no, sa nangyayari ngayon. No? So it's important to highlight that kasi that would result um, to possible environmental issue or even a pandemic. Okay? Tapos dito naman sa pollution, no, naging less ang pollution natin because of the pandemic. So we'll see, pag-uusapan natin yan kung ano na nga ba ang state ng atmosphere natin ngayon. Kasi as of 2019 December, the parts per million of carbon dioxide present in the atmosphere is 418. Ang safe carbon dioxide present sa atmosphere natin is 400 ppm. Nung December, 418 ppm. At that time, nasunog pa ang Amazon rainforest at ang Australian bushfire. So hindi natin alam kung ano nangyari. But pag-uusapan natin ngayon or tatalakayin din natin further in this course kung ano nga ba ang state ng atmosphere natin as of today. Okay? Second issue is loss of biodiversity. The number of species on Earth is unknown but estimated to be tens of millions. Biodiversity is the number of different species present in one specific ecosystem. Extinction or complete loss of species is a natural event that can be accelerated by human actions. So based on the history, no, of natural history of science, there were 5 major extinctions. And The most recent one is the Cretaceous extinction that happened approximately 65 million years ago and caused 75% of all species to disappear from Earth. And ito ay dahil daw sa meteor impact. Now, what did I mean when extinction can be accelerated by humans? Extinction naturally happens, but it takes a lot of years in order to happen. No, but because of human being, may mga article na nagsasabi that humans are already starting to lead the sixth mass extinction. No, bakit? No, example, let's take a look at uh, this picture of a short-tailed hopping mouse sa Australia. Ano nangyari dito? Okay. Assuming no catastrophic event occurs, extinction normally occur at a pretty slow rate called the background rate. So mabagal lang po ang extinction ng species kapag walang natural catastrophic event kagaya ng meteor na nag-crash 65 million years ago. Because background rate or extinction rate na background rate, um, it takes 200 years para ma-extinct ang isang mammal. Okay, it takes 200 years para ma-extinct ang isang mammal. Scientists believe uh, we may be in the midst of the next major extinction event due to human influences because humans are aggregating the possibilities of mass extinction. So Australia has experienced 27 mammal extinctions since 1788, primarily due to influence of European settlers. So there were many European settlers who transferred to Australia because Australia became one of their colonies. And since 1788 until this was is I made this slide 20. I got this data 2018. So 1888, uh 1888, 1988, 88, 98, 2008. So 230 years. In just 230 years, 27 mammals na agad ang na-extinct sa Australia. So what more, no, nung nasunog yung Amazon forest tsaka yung Australian bushfire na nangyari lang last year tsaka early of this year. So what I'm trying to say is that kapag walang human interference or human interference, isang mammal lang kada 200 years ang nai-extinct. Pero dahil sa interaction, sa human intervention, 27 mammals na ang na-extinct. 27 mammals na ang na-extinct in just 230 years. And in 2019, no, just last year, in 1 year, merong dalawang species ang na-extinct. The blue macaw and the white rhino. So these two species were extinct in just 1 year. And earlier this year, na-extinct na din daw po ang Far Eastern Puma. Hindi Far Eastern University. Far Eastern Puma po ay na-extinct na din early this year. And nung nasunog ang Australian bushfire, ang mga koala sa Australia ay muntik ma-endangered. Muntik silang umabot sa bracket ng endangerment, no? So, and nung nasunog yung Amazon forest, hindi natin kasi talaga alam kung ilang species yung meron tayo dito, pero we have approximations. Nung nasunog yung Amazon forest, approximately 500 million species were affected. Most of them were killed or died. Kasama na doon yung plant species. Plant species and animal species were destroyed. No? And we will be considering, we will be talking related issues, possible issues doon sa pagkasunog ng dalawang event na yun. The Australian bushfire and the Amazon forest fire. Diba? So in just 2 years, last year tsaka ngayong year, matinding loss of biodiversity ang nangyari. And of course, the pandemic has also caused loss of biodiversity. Okay? Number three, environmental ethics. So, environmental ethics naman, this is a discipline that studies moral relationship of human beings to the environment. So, as human beings, we are encouraged not to protect the environment. So, here are the things that you should consider on what is the value of the environment. Number one, what moral responsibility do we have in dealing with the major environmental problems that results from our resource consumption? Which needs should be given highest priority in our decision making? In our decision making, again, let's go back to our decision making. Yung sinabi ko kanina, in every deliberations that you do, always consider the next 7 generations. So that's one thing to consider. No? Two main categories of ethics have merged in human culture in modern history. So I will be discussing two environmental ethics. The first one is anthropocentrism. Anthropocentrism, ang ibig sabihin nito, human-centered. Okay, as humans, we are considered to be the apex predators. What do we mean by apex predator? Apex predator is the top of the food chain. No? Not because of our strength, but because of our ability to reason, to think. So, sa anthropocentrism, people think that we are above all creatures. We are all above creatures. But then again, no, when you say above all creatures, it doesn't necessarily mean it's negative. This set of ethics protects and promotes the human interest or well being at the expense of all other factors, often places an emphasis on short term benefits while disregarding long term consequences. Anthropocentrism is not all bad, but it is somehow bad because humans would consider themselves rather than other species because humans sees themselves as the top or the apex predators, no? So, parang ako. Ganun yung nangyayari kapag anthropocentric ka. But if you are an anthropocentric na in a good way, since you are above all creatures, ang tendency, you have to protect the environment. But anthropocentrism is generally human-centered. So isipin mo lang kung ano makabubuti sa tao, ano makabubuti sa tao, even to the point that to expense of other species. Example, mining. Um, issue natin ngayon, naging issue ang mining nung time ni Ms. Gina Lopez. And right now, dahil nagkukulang tayo sa resources, they said that they are planning to revive mining, no? So, yun, pag-uusapan din natin yan later on sa environmental ethics natin. Ecocentrists. So kung sa anthropocentrism, it is human-centered because you see yourself as the top, no? Ikaw yung nasa taas or nasa tuktok ng environmental ethics. Pero sa ecocentrism, you believe that you are not the top or you are not above all other creatures, but you consider yourself as only part of the environment. Okay? Um, and of course, believes that the nature deserves to exist for its own sake, regardless of degree of usefulness to humans. The preservation of ecosystem or other living things takes priority over human needs. So, sa ecocentrism naman, you do not only consider yourself, no, but also consider all other species. So, if you're going to look at the structure, kapag anthropocentric, pyramid ang kanyang structure because humans are at the top of the food chain, while sa ecocentrists, the humans are just part of the circle of life, di ba? Circle of life, ni ano, sa Lion King. Um, so yun. So believe that the nature is uh, a big picture, no? Hindi mo tinitingnan yung sarili mo o hindi tinitingnan ng tao ang sarili niya as the center of the universe, but rather human sees the environment as the center of the universe and we are just part of it. So those are two major environmental ethics, um, which I think um, very relevant, no? Na pwede nyo pagnilay-nilayan at pag-isipan in everything that you do in uh, tawag doon, in your deliberation. So, reflect ka kung ikaw ba ay anthropocentric or ecocentric. So, modern environmentalism, Miss Rachel Carson on her book Silent Spring in 1962 showed the effects of pesticides on large predatory birds and particularly bald eagles. So this began a public awakening to threats of pollution and toxic chemicals to humans as well as other species. This movement is called the modern environmentalism. Ang environmental science kasi, of course, no, before the time of Miss Rachel Carson, um, the environment is just a means to an end to humans. Kumbaga, ginagamit lang ng tao ang environment at its point and not considering other factors. Um, Example, no wave ng Industrial Revolution where um, London no had a London smog because of environmental issue. So, yung mga events na ito at yung libro ni Miss Rachel Carson, yun yung nag-enlighten na humans, we do not only use the environment because we are only part of the environment. Hindi ang modern environmentalism, no, ang modern environmentalism or environmentalism ngayon is about loving the environment, of course, generally, and as well as protecting it because not all human beings would protect the environment. And of course, as environmental science students, you are expected to be part of the people who protects and promotes the environment at your own simple and little ways. Kasi, of course, our role, no, as teachers is to educate you. When you become engineers, technologists, no, in the future, definitely may mga gagawin kayong inventions, no? And always consider that in your inventions that is it environmental? Is it friendly to the environment, no? Hindi yung gagawa ka lang and mag-iimbento ka na that it will definitely harm the environment. So global environmentalism, increased travel and communication enables people to know about daily events in places unknown in previous generations. Global environmentalism explores issues and problems over entire world, not just within the local community. So because of the advancement of science and technology, no, it was able to reach other people. Naging global na yung movement ng environment. Kasi, um, the movement of global environmentalism ay bumilis lang, nagkaroon na ng internet, nagkaroon na ng communications because everyone is heard, everyone had their own platform regarding the environment, no? And there are already joint researches regarding the environment na ginagawa ng iba't ibang bansa. And Philippines is also participating in such events. We have a lot of projects here in the Philippines relating to environment, but then again, it still needs support. No, okay. So tragedy of the commons is a great deal of progress has been made since the birth of modern environmentalism, but many debates still rage on. The ecologist named Garrett Hardin wrote on essay called The Tragedy of the Commons, describing the source of environmental problems as a conflict. So short-term interests of individuals versus long-term interests of civilization and the earth itself. Okay, economics and the environment. So economics has a huge influence in the environmental decision making. One of the most basic principles of economics is supply and demand. The greater the demand For the limited resources, the higher the price. Okay. Sa environmental science, pag-uusapan din kasi natin ang economics. Example, 'di ba nga kapag higher ang demand, kapag higher ang sorry, 'di ba kapag greater ang demand ng resources, mas mataas ang presyo, mas mataas ang price. So, nagiging trend ito, nagiging napapag-usapan ito lagi when we talk about sa pagtaas at pagbaba ng presyo ng langis na nakakaapekto sa mga drivers natin, no? And bakit hindi pwedeng ibaba ng ibaba yung presyo? Bakit hindi din pwedeng itaas ng itaas ang presyo ng langis? Because of the issue on economics and environment. Because again, we have a very limited natural resources. So we have to use renewable energies. So right now, other governments are investing on, other countries are already investing on energy science, like quest on looking for a new possible source of energy. Um, sa buong mundo, there are for approximately 450 nuclear fission power plants, sources of energy. And there are only 37 countries who have one. Tayo sa Pilipinas, we do not use yet the nuclear power plants. Okay, but hopefully there will be a chance no na magkaroon tayo ng opportunity to utilize nuclear energy because it's more efficient compared to other sources of energy that we have right now rather than coal. Okay? So again, the goal of environmental science is a sustainable world. Sustainability is when human needs are met so that population can survive indefinitely. But sustainability is also meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. So again, in every deliberations that we do, always consider the next 7 generations or the next 200 years on whatever you experience right now ay sana maranasan din ng next 7 generations. Again, yung 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 needs natin ay na meet pero sana hindi ma-compromise yung needs ng next generations. So, spaceship worldview, this is a view from the moon. This is, hindi ko pala na to. This is a view gotten from the Earthrise taken by Apollo 8 crew in 1968. The Earth is a closed system, meaning nothing enters or leaves the Earth in a large quantities. Um, Resources are limited, but the population continues to increase. Wastes do not go away. So again, we have a very limited um, resources. Pero tumadami na tumadami ang population natin. So what do we do about this? Sa environmental science, we will be studying about this one. And wastes do not go away. So what should we do with the wastes? Okay? So according to Adlai Stevenson, we travel together, passengers on a little ship, dependent on its vulnerable reserves of air and soil. So we must utilize it properly and not abuse the environment kasi yun lang yung meron tayo. There's a song by Peter Meyer called Blue Boat Home. So Blue Boat Home is called, dahil lang ha. Okay. Okay. So before we end our discussion, I would like to share to you um, uh, the song of Peter Mayer called Blue Boat Home. Dali lang po. Okay. Kindly take your time to listen and reflect on the song called The Blue Boat Home.
I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean. Still my dry land heart can sing. I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep. Drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on. Read the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
So, according to Marshall McLuhan, in a ship called Earth, we are all crew. There are no passengers. In a ship called Earth, there are no passengers. We are all crew, according to Marshall McLuhan. Anong ibig sabihin nun? Hindi tayo pasahero lang ng planet Earth. We are all crew, and therefore we have to take care of our environment because this is our only planet. Okay, it's our only blue boat home. Okay, so yeah, so now after this, we will be discussing about basic science concepts uh, on environmental science. Okay, so if you have any questions, feel free to comment or message me. Okay, thank you.